Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the big picture cycles for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto markets. I figured that the most value to you guys is always going to be taking a look at the big picture, and I wanted to share with you guys how the 4-year cycle theory is going to be stacking up into the future cycles. We all know that the end of the year is going to be the major blow off top for crypto, but it's also important to understand where the next time to get in the market will be later into 2023 all the way to 2025. It's important that we understand exactly when to get in and out, and also planning ahead for future cycles. And today I wanted to share with you guys how many more bubble phases I think we're going to actually have in Bitcoin. Is this going to be the final one that we ever see before Bitcoin becomes too mainstream to earn a good profit? Or are we going to continue to see Bitcoin make these insane rises over and over again throughout the years? We're going to be covering all of this today to keep you guys best informed on what to do with your money long term. If you're new and just finding this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Always remember to click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos like the one provided for you here. And make sure you guys sign up and join the Discord server of over 21,000 members and growing. Links are provided for you in the description for the people that want to sign up and join my community. On top of that, if you're new, just getting into these markets and you want an extra educational source to teach you guys some of the basics on how to be profitable, I have a link in the description to go ahead and download my free ebook and beginner's guide to crypto that I know is going to help you guys out tremendously. So go check it out. Links are provided for you in the description. And with all that being said, guys, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so to start off this video, let's quickly just talk about what this is going to be about for the most part. Today we're going to be mapping out the 4-year cycle theory, which you guys already know about, but then we're also going to be diving back into how to actually map it out into the long-term cycle, give you guys an example of what the next cycle could actually look like, as well as talking to you guys about, do I think that this is going to be the end of the big bubble mania, right? Because markets can't always just go in bubbles. Eventually the liquidity becomes too great, there's too much money invested, and there's not enough people buying and selling for the price to really have these same volatile price swings. The reason why we've seen Bitcoin do what it has done over the last 10 years is simply because there wasn't that much money in it realistically. Comparing it to the market caps of many other stocks, comparing it to the market cap of different companies, gold, silver, things like that, Bitcoin was very much undervalued. And so it didn't take very much money to see these insane price spikes inside of Bitcoin's price. And so it's important to understand that there will be a certain point where we hit an equilibrium between institutional investors, between the common person investing into these markets, and really those guys just looking to hold their investments long term. They will sell, they will buy more, but the prices aren't going to have these same bubble phases like we've seen up to this point. And I think a lot of you guys already understand that. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about where I potentially think that the end of the bubble phase is going to be. Is it going to be the end of this cycle? Is this the cycle where we go completely mainstream? Or is it going to be later down the line? And I'm also going to be sharing with you guys some market cycle graphs, really that show the valuation of big picture trends, not so much with the Bitcoin price chart, but just as a market whole, right? So the first thing that I wanted to cover today is really just mapping out how these 4-year cycles stack up. And one of the big questions I often get is how come I don't analyze this first cycle, right? Well, first things first, guys. The reason I don't analyze the first cycle is because this was a time where there was hardly any liquidity inside of Bitcoin's market. It takes very small amounts of money to see insane price spikes inside of the price back then. And so I don't count it for one of those reasons. To be a true 4-year cycle trend, it has to have a certain amount of liquidity for it to be consistent enough to follow that trend. And this was at a time where that just simply wasn't the case. And we also don't have all of the price history to go off of. Now, on top of that, the other big reason is we had never actually seen a Bitcoin halving. Now, something that actually follows the 4-year cycle very identically is the 4-year halvings that take place inside of Bitcoin. Every 4 years, the mining reward, the amount of new Bitcoins that are added to the supply based off of the miners processing the transactions and mining the blocks, that gets cut in half every 4 years. So not only is Bitcoin programmed to follow 4-year cycles, but it also follows 4-year cycles from the peak high to the peak low and vice versa. And so back here, we had never even seen a halving, right? The first halving took place right here, about November of 2012. And that was the first time we saw a halving. And then 4 years later, we saw one right here. And then another 4 years later, we saw one right here. And so this is the way that these cycles work. And so I don't really count this first one because there's not the same type of parameters that the current ones actually follow. There was less liquidity. It was pretty much just a low cap shitcoin at the time. And there hadn't even been a Bitcoin halving. So the overall supply effect wasn't even programmed into the Bitcoin's price back then. And so we're only going to be talking about these last 10 years of the cycle because this is actually where Bitcoin follows this trend. So generally speaking, one of the big things that you guys can take away from this video is understanding when Bitcoin tops and when Bitcoin bottoms, because that is arguably one of the most important aspects of the 4-year cycle theory. And it helps us to understand when to get in and out of the market. We always want to know when the greatest time to sell and when the greatest time to buy is, right? Buy low, sell high. And if we understand these basic time frames, we're going to set ourselves up to be very much more profitable than the rest of the market out there. I see a lot of people that trade based off of different tools, different technical analysis setups. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think that these people are going to miss out on a lot of gains simply because they're not following the actual time frames of the cycles. In my opinion, time frames are the only thing that matters. Time frames are going to be way more accurate than anything that technical analysis can show. Now, keep in mind, guys, yes, timeframes are a form of technical analysis nonetheless, but this is a little bit different than most traders out there will have you follow. And so it's important to understand why we follow these timeframes, and I'm going to kind of map it out for you guys inside of this video. So first things first. This is the first major cycle that we're going to be talking about, right? It bottoms here at the end of November to December, so the winter timeframes. The winter timeframes is going to be the major pivot point for the cycle low and the cycle high, so pay attention for this. So we get the winter timeframe right around here, November to December, and then we start that new bull run, right? Higher highs, higher lows, all the way up until eventually we top out. And look at the date in which we top out, pretty much the end of November. So we bottomed the end of November and we topped the end of November. Now, bear markets historically last about 1 year in duration, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes just slightly less, but right around that year time frame. And so we top here at the end of 2013, and then we bottom here at the beginning of 2015. So it was about 13 months in which we had this bear market decline. But we topped in winter, once again, just like we bottomed down here and started the cycle, we topped right here and ended the cycle in the winter time frame. 1 year passes, and where do we bottom? About the 1st of January. So once again, we're following that same winter threshold, right? And this is actually where we start getting the 4-year cycle theory. Now, the way that you map out a 4-year cycle theory and the 4-year cycle as a whole is by either taking the high of the cycle or the low of the cycle and measuring it out 4 years. So technically 4 years based off of days is going to be 1,460 days. That is going to be 1 calendar year. And so if we measure from the peak high of 2013 all the way over here to the peak high at 20K in 2017, that equals about 1,470 days. So almost exactly 1 year. It's only about a week off, in fact. And so this is something that we're going to be able to map out all the time, right? So not only do the peak highs to peak high line up as 4 years, but if we take the peak low to peak low coming from, the bottom at 160 bucks in 2015 all the way over here to the very end of 2018, this equals about 1,442 days. So about a couple weeks off from actually being a full 4 years. So this one was just a week over 4 years. This one was a couple weeks under 4 years. But nonetheless, I mean, in a 4-year time frame, isn't it amazing that we're only either 1 or 2 weeks off from being exact one way or another? That is, in my opinion, what is so amazing about Bitcoin's price is just how correlated it is to these 4-year cycles. I mean, there's no way that you can deny this. And anybody that tries to deny it, in my opinion, is either basing too much hope on this first cycle, which I just don't think is going to be necessary when we hadn't even had a Bitcoin halving yet. So there was just not as many factors pinpointing to a 4-year cycle as there is now, right? I don't think this first one followed the 4-year cycle because, once again, one of the main reasons why Bitcoin follows these 4-year cycles is because every 4 years we have a Bitcoin halving. Not only does Bitcoin follow it from peak high to peak high and peak low to peak low, but it follows it every 4 years because it's programmed into Bitcoin to do that. And so I really think that the 4-year cycle theory is far superior over any other trading plan because it's literally programmed into Bitcoin's code to do this. Every 4 years, it's supposed to do this. And so this takes us to 2020, right? So I should say 2018, the current cycle that we're in right now. So the way that we would measure and the way that we have been measuring this is, remember, 4 years in advance is going to be taking us to the peak high to peak high and peak low to peak low of the 4-year cycle. And so we've yet to actually finish that 4-year cycle quite yet. We still have until the end of the year because 1,460 days from the high made in 20,000 all the way over to here actually takes us to about the 1st of December, right? And so a lot of people ask me, when is going to be the golden time to actually take profits on your Bitcoin? Should we hold altcoins a little bit later? And I wanted to get into that a little bit today. So honestly, guys, I don't think that you're going to be able to be wrong in any sort of sense as long as you're getting out based off of these specific time frames, right? If Bitcoin overextends and it goes to the end of December, and you sell the end of November or the beginning of December, honestly, that's not anything to be concerned about. Yes, you're going to miss out on some profit, but it's not that important. I mean, if you guys have been here as long as I have, which some of you haven't, but a lot of you have, we've been accumulating all throughout this period of time, right? And so for us to be selling within a month end of the cycle, that is totally great. Nobody ever went broke taking profits. That's one of the golden rules that I like to live by. Now, even though I haven't really taken much profits until coming up on the end of the year is when I will, I still think that as long as you're there within a couple months of that period, you should be very happy. You should be very thankful that what profit you pulled out of the market and the fact that you actually got out in the bull run. The best time to get out of a bull market is actually when the market is uptrending in the bull run. You don't want to be selling once the market's already coming back down. And so when it comes to scaling out of our Bitcoin, we can go back and analyze where did we actually top in the previous cycles. Well, this first cycle in 2013, we topped at pretty much the very end of November, right? The last week of November is where Bitcoin actually topped at about $1,150, right? And so we ended up topping here in 2017 about the very first week of December. So a little bit different, but not that far off. And so where are we going to actually be topping in this cycle? Are we going to be topping in November or are we going to be topping in the first week of December? Well, I couldn't tell you that until it actually happens. We don't really know, but all I can say is as long as you're exiting out of the market and being very cautious once November to past the second week of November starts to roll around, I mean, yes, it's possible we could extend over to January, but in my opinion, when it comes to Bitcoin, it's important to understand one key simple fact. And in the 2017 cycle, what ended up happening was, let's actually pull up the Bitcoin chart real quick. And let's just go take a look at what I'm talking about specifically on the shorter time frames. So basically what happened is, notice how Bitcoin went from 3,000 all the way to 20,000 in the final 90 days of this bull cycle. We had the massive upswing, the blow off top of the cycle, and then this was the first lower high, right? From 20,000 back down here to about 11,000, back up to about 17,000. This was our first lower high in the new bear trend, right? This is what started the bear market. And what's interesting is actually at the very top of this move, and specifically this upswing here, this is when altcoins actually finished their blow off top. So if we come over and take a look at XRP, for example, just because it's the first one on my mind, if we come over here and look at XRP, look at what I'm talking about when I say that. So let's pull up both of these charts real quick. Let's pull up Bitcoin. And I'll share with you guys exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to what happened at the end of that cycle. So right here, we have this final blow off top. Notice how both of these charts are synced with each other. So as I draw on the Bitcoin chart, you're going to see the dotted line moving on the XRP chart. This is where Bitcoin was at 3K. This is where Bitcoin was at 20,000, right? So from 3,000 to 20,000, XRP went like this and made one little move, right? And then it was on this move, the first lower high and the first lower high in that new bear trend, that XRP actually did this. So we actually saw an extension inside of the altcoins in the first lower high in Bitcoin's bear trend. And so what that tells me is that altcoins are lagging Bitcoin. Now, is this going to be the same case for this cycle? I really have no idea. And one of the things that's different in this cycle is simply the fact that most altcoins have lagged the entire time, specifically the high cap cryptos. And so I'm wondering that in this final blow off top that we're about to see as Bitcoin rallies up to $200,000, $300,000 approximately, you know, based off of the majority of people's targets. My target's 250 personally. But in this final blow off top, I'm kind of thinking that altcoins and Bitcoin are going to rise together and altcoins are actually going to outperform. And so when Bitcoin tops, altcoins are going to top. And so I'm personally just going to be looking to get out of all of my positions at the same time. If I'm wrong and altcoins extend an extra month and I miss out on some profit, you know, so be it. I've been in here from the very, very, very beginning of this. I've already made so much life-changing wealth inside of this market. I far surpassed my biggest goals and expectations that it would be silly for me not to just sell and potentially miss out on all that profit that I gained, guys, because here's something to pay attention for. In this first sell-off that we see, this first major move back down, this wrecked altcoins. This destroyed altcoins, and people lost out on a ton of profit. Because of how much they left on the table from not selling in this move up here, they ended up holding on to this and then watching as each one of these little chops completely bled out their portfolios. All the unrealized gains went to nothing, and by this point in the cycle, they had pretty much either lost all their profit or even ended up at a loss from their initial entry prices because they just weren't willing to take profits. I'm telling you guys right now, as somebody who did that in the last cycle, I am not doing the same thing twice. And so I think the best thing that we can do is simply look to scale out November, December. End of November historically has been the point in which we top, sometimes even the first week of December. And so if you're exiting at any point throughout that time in the cycle, I literally don't think that you can go wrong. Even if you're wrong by it going a little bit further up, it extending a little bit longer than those time frames show, why does it necessarily matter if you've been down here from the beginning? And I mean, at the very least, if you don't want to potentially miss out on any of that gain, you can still leave some money in the market, but just take the majority of your profits because there's so many different data points that are simply lining up that the end of the cycle is near and you're about to get dumped on really heavily. I don't think that we're there yet, but we will be very soon when we experience this type of a blow off top, right? And so this is literally going to be taking us into the next cycle, right? And this is something that I wanted to share with you guys about because I've had a lot of people ask me, you know, is this going to be the cycle where Bitcoin just goes up and it starts uptrending? It becomes, you know, kind of like a stock where we just see stocks uptrend, make little sell-offs as they go up for, you know, 50 plus years? Or are we going to see another one of these major crashes? And it's my apparent philosophy that we are not there for mainstream adoption. I mean, if you guys look around us, yes, there's influencers, yes, there's famous people getting on board, mainly with NFTs, but when you really take the time to just analyze from a logical perspective what is going on inside the markets, we've just seen a prolonged bull market. Every single time we see one of these, we get a year-long crash, every single time. And this is what we've been doing for a long period of time, is simply just uptrending, simply going up simply just going up more and more parabolic. Now, I don't think that we're at the point of pure mainstream adoption because when you really just take the time to analyze things logically without any TA, I mean, look at it from face value. The markets still aren't even regulated. So how could this be fully mainstream if nothing is even regulated yet? We're still worried about the SEC. We're still worried about Gary Gensler potentially shutting stuff down or putting a dampering on DeFi protocols and all of these things. That's not something that happens in a fully mature market, right? A fully mature market, there's already regulations. We already know how to distinguish what's a security and what's not a security. We already have all of the framework in place so that we don't even have to ask these types of questions. The whole reason that we're asking these type of questions is because we're still in a speculative market, guys. There's still so many changing variables around, and that's why I just simply don't believe that we're anywhere close to an actual mainstream phase where we have a lengthening cycle that just keeps going up and keeps going up, because that's just simply not the case. That's just, I mean, when we take a time to just look at what's happening, we're still very much undervalued in the grand scheme of things. And so I believe that at the end of this year, we will get a top of the 4-year cycle, and we will start a brand new bear market, a year-long bear market, right? And so I've gone over here and actually just combined this sell-off with this bull run. And I've kind of gone ahead and shared with you guys this chart because I wanted to give you guys an example of what I think could be happening. And so when we take a look at this, basically I will expect to see a bear market decline of a year. Historically, they last about a year. I think that we will follow the 4-year cycle again. And when we actually analyze where the cycle low will take us, we have to measure from the very last cycle low that we had back in 2018. So the very end of 2018. We draw a data point and we go 1,460 days in advance, and then we draw another data point, and that's going to be taking us to the very end of 2022, the beginning of 2023. This is kind of what I've been talking to you guys about. I'm going to be out at the end of this year. I'm going to go vacation. I'm going to go have fun, spend time with my family, maybe buy a house, maybe, who knows what the heck I'm actually going to do. But I'm taking a break from crypto. I'm burned out. I'm sick of crypto. I'm not going to lie. I've made all of my major goals that I had for myself before the cycle started, and I've knocked every one of those off, and I have nothing more to live for in this market other than actually giving you guys great opportunities of doing the same for yourself. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm burned out from crypto, and the only reason I'm still doing this in the first place is because I want to make sure that you guys are able to fully capitalize on this opportunity given. I could sell right now and I could be totally fine for a long time in my life, maybe the rest of my life, probably so. But that's not what's important to me. The whole reason I started this channel was to be able to help educate you guys and be able to show you guys exactly how you can get in and out of the market and make life-changing wealth in the process. And this is why I'm going to continue to make this channel. But I'm telling you guys right now, I'm burned out. And I'm taking a break for this year-long bear market. I won't be in here. I won't be uploading nearly as much. I'll still be in here, but nonetheless, I'm definitely taking a break. And so I'm going to be looking to sell at the end of the year and then buy back the beginning of 2023, the very end of 2022, right down here, which historically will be exactly 1 year from the cycle high back to the cycle low. There's two things you want to look for when it comes to buying and re-entering into a bear market, and that's at least a 70% decline from the all-time high to the low of where you're at. You want to be buying at least a 70% drawdown from the all-time high, and then you want to be looking for pretty close to a year time frame from the cycle high, right? Because that's where we're going to be following these time frames. The bear market's going to last about a year. This one lasted 13 months. This one lasted 11 months. So give or take a couple months, it's going to be right around that same time frame. So look for a 70% drawdown and then look for about a year duration from the peak of the all-time high. And that's where you're going to want to look to enter the market. And so as long as we're just patient, we don't need to be trading ourselves. We don't need to be trading throughout this bear market. I mean, yeah, if you want to go and short the market, I'm going to definitely be opening some shorts. But for the most part, guys, you make your money going long. And I'm not a day trader. I don't want to be a day trader. I've always said that from the beginning, because you make just so much money holding the length of the trend that why even bother with it? You might be able to make a few X's on your portfolio shorting it. But I mean, I just go long on some stocks and go long on some commodities. I don't need to go short the market and sit on my computer all day like a nerd. That's just my personal philosophy. And so the beginning of 2023 is going to be taking us into our new bull run, right? And so if we actually map out, this is all speculation at this point because we don't even have a cycle high at this. We don't have the cycle high until the end of the year at some point. And so I'm just kind of measuring where it projects the cycle high to be, and that's going to be the first week of December 2021. So 4 years, specifically 1,460 days, is going to be taking us to our next cycle top in the next 4-year cycle that isn't even here yet, guys. Just bear with me. This is total speculation. That's going to be taking us once again to around the first week of 2025. The end of 2025 is going to be our projected cycle top of the next 4-year cycle. And it's in that cycle that I actually believe that we're going to be hitting a mainstream adoption phase. And I actually have this chart to share with you guys to kind of help map that out for you. So this is pretty much just the market cycle chart showing adoption. This is really how adoption works. So 2017 and prior to that, I believe that this was the innovators phase inside of crypto, because it was 2016 and 2017 where we really saw a big influx of new altcoins starting to pop up. That was the ICO craze. Before that, there was a handful of altcoins, but really they weren't doing anything. Most of them were complete scams. Most of them were by the names of Bitcoin Dark, Bitcoin Light, this coin, that coin, and everything started with a coin, right? And so if you guys go back and look at the screenshots on CoinMarketCap, go back to 2013 and look at the coins, it was literally this point here. And then I think that that was actually what 2017 was. I think that that was where we left it. And so 2018, all the way into this cycle, I believe that we're right here in the early adopters phase, right? I still believe that we're really, really early. But I believe in the next cycle, this is where we ultimately tackle on the early majority, and then the late majority will get in once the market tops, right? So at the end of 2025, this will be this, right? That's when the late majority will get in, they'll buy the top, and then the laggards will get in, you know, after we have a multi-year bear market, because that's actually my personal philosophy. I believe that at the end of 2025 up here, keep in mind that this is far overdrawn. This is at like 200 million per Bitcoin. I just can't actually scrunch it without it ruining the chart. And so I don't think that we're actually going to be this high. I'm just trying to show you guys the time frames, right? I do believe that after 2025, we would start a multi-year bear market of some kind. I don't know how long that's going to take, but I would imagine it's going to be multi-years, because at that point, I believe that Bitcoin will be 100% mainstream. I believe that all of the big gains to be had are in the innovators phase to early adopters phase, and then this will be the big bubble that we see in the next cycle from 2023 all the way up to the end of 2025. That will be the mainstream cycle. That will be the big one. That's where everything becomes widely adopted. That's where all of these cryptos that are going to be worthwhile long term, they either fall off and die, or they're actually the things that we use every single day. I don't believe that we're there yet. We don't have regulation. We don't have a lot of the stuff that is necessary for total mainstream adoption. We're close. We're seeing a lot of really important people in the world getting involved with cryptos, but we're still not quite there nonetheless. And so I believe that the next cycle is going to be the one where in this bear market, most likely we get regulation. Most likely we get clarity in all of that sense. And that prepares us for the next 4-year cycle that will take off. And that will be the big one, guys. That's the one where we really want to be preparing. And so I had a lot of people that were worried. Is this the last cycle? I mean, I got in late to this cycle. Is this really all the money I'm going to be able to make before, Bitcoin becomes unprofitable for the most part? And I don't believe that's so. We have an opportunity, a rare opportunity, to capitalize on this current cycle. And if you guys follow the time frames given, you'll be able to get out at the right time at the end of this cycle, come end of the year. Whatever money you have at that point, some of you guys that got in early are going to have a lot. Some of you guys that got in late are only going to have a little. It doesn't necessarily matter, because I started with a small amount down here, and I have a lot at this point here in the cycle. And I'm going to have a lot more at the end of the year, along with a lot of you guys watching this channel. It doesn't matter how much you have. You could have $5,000. You could have $100,000. When you buy the cycle low coming 2023, and you hold the whole 4-year cycle until the end of 2025, especially the cycle that's going to be the big one, the mainstream cycle, I'm telling you guys right now, you will make so much life-changing amounts of wealth that it doesn't matter where you're at right now. You could even start at pretty much zero coming the beginning of 2023. If you're smart, you hold the right assets, you will make life-changing wealth regardless. There's many altcoins that pull 500 to 1,000x gains. This is something that happens often. And if you're smart and you get in at the low of the cycle, you're going to set yourself up to make that same type of return. And so the big thing that I want you guys to come away with this video, make sure that you sell at the end of the year. Make sure that you take profits. Don't be worried if it goes a little bit further, a little bit higher than you were initially expecting, because it will top pretty close to the end of this year at some point, whether it's the end of November, whether it's the first couple weeks of December, or whether it's the end of December. I literally do not care. I'm going to be out of the market. I'm going to be happy with what I have, and you guys should really do the same. Take my advice as somebody who got wrecked in the last bear market, as somebody who didn't do that. I'm going to be doing it this time around. I can guarantee that. And so the thing to focus on, guys, is we're still going to get one more bubble at the end of this. We're still going to get another major wave inside of these 4-year cycles. Bitcoin is going to go rally insanely high. We're going to have the mainstream cycle. Most likely it's going to be the really big one where a lot of us are able to make, life-changing amounts of wealth. But at the end of that, that's when I would expect a multi-year bear market where it's not going to follow the 4-year cycle anymore. We're going to go through an extended period of bear market, maybe 2 to 5 years in length. I don't know how long. But at that point, all of the dumb money is going to buy the top. All of the smart money, the institutions that have been in since 2018, they're going to be looking to sell. They're even going to be selling at the end of this cycle. But I still think that without regulation, that is a big eye-opening factor that basically tells me we're not at that mainstream phase yet. We're still in this phase right here, the early adopters. And so if you were worried about, you felt like you were late to the show, you're not. You're not late at all. NFTs just first started taking off in the last year. NFTs are going to be the future of so much infrastructure with crypto. DeFi just started taking off in 2020. We didn't even have DeFi until then. How is this the mainstream cycle if DeFi is still in its infancy stages? It hasn't even had a cycle yet. It's literally at the very beginning of one. Chainlink started that in 2018, and then most DeFi protocols came out in 2020. We can't be at the whole product solution, the early majority, when DeFi just started, guys. I'm telling you right now. And so one final thought before we wrap up this video. Taking a look at this cycle, I still believe that we're in the cycle before this, right? We're in this big bubble phase. The bear market will crash. Beginning of 2023, we'll start this one. Now, these are fractals in and of themselves. We're already seeing this happening inside of this cycle, right? And it happened in the same way in the last cycle. But nonetheless, on the big picture, I still believe we're going to get one more major bubble once regulation steps in, and then that will be the end of it. But we're going to see the next cycle from 2023 to 2025. That's going to be the big one, right? This is where we see smart money getting in at the low in 2023. 2024, we start seeing a big influx of new institutional investors as Bitcoin breaks its all-time highs. And then once we go into price discovery at the end of 2025, this is where we see the big one. This is where these people are going to be getting in. The early majority to the late majority are going to be getting in up here. The big run up, and then this is where we start the multi-year bear market, okay? So this is my personal belief on the cycles, and I wanted to give you guys a very detailed analysis today. I'm really just to the point where I'm getting sick of uploading every single day, and so if I'm going to upload, I'm going to give you guys the most value that I possibly can, and when it comes to providing the most value, I personally believe that the cycles are the way to go. I don't think that there's any other analysis that's going to make as much sense to the majority of people. A lot of you guys don't care to listen to a bunch of technical analysis, a bunch of fine details on things, what Fibonacci extension goes to here and all of that crap, because it's kind of obsolete. And the final blow off top, none of that even matters. And if you're not getting out based off the time frames, you're simply kind of just shooting in the dark as far as where the cycle is actually going to top. A lot of people will exclaim you could never nail the cycle high and the cycle low, but when you're mapping out the 4-year cycles, I'm telling you guys that you can get so accurate in actually doing that. It won't be the exact low, won't be the exact high, but it literally doesn't matter when you're getting in a 4-year trend within a week inside of the high and inside the low. So anyways, guys, if you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos. If you guys want to join the Discord server, you want to download my free ebook and Beginner's Guide to Crypto, links are provided for you in the description for that. And one final thought, guys, is remember that for the rest of this month, this is the end of the sale that I'm going to be doing. The video course, the signals, and the new beginner course, all of that is going to be bundled for the same low price, over 50% off. It's only going to be good until the end of the month. And so if you guys want to get into this, you guys really need to check it out now because you're going to miss out on that. If you guys want to know which signals I'm going to be nailing at the end of this 4-year cycle, the most profitable point of the cycle, along with how I'm going to be selling those positions, where I'm going to be taking the profits into, stocks, commodities, things like that, that's going to be really important because if you guys join my VIP, it's a lifetime membership. So as long as I'm trading in these markets, as long as I'm investing, you're going to know exactly what I'm doing with my money. Because here's the thing, I might be burned out from crypto, but when I take my profits at the end of this year, I'm going to be looking to jump into something else, stocks, commodities, maybe even real estate, things like that. So if you guys want to be able to follow my moves with the market, this is the way that you're going to be able to do it. And if you guys get in by the end of the month, you're going to be able to have a 50% discount on that group. So check it out. Links are provided for you in the description. And with all that being said, guys, catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.